All right, it's 10 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and get started. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you all so much for joining me today. This month's topic is all about the inventory app. So at any time during the training, if you have any questions, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask, or you can send a message through the chat. As always, all of our calls are recorded and will be available through our YouTube channel as well as through Salamander Live in Salamander University. All right, so before we do the walkthrough through the inventory app itself, I just want to take a moment here to talk about what the inventory app is, especially for those that may be newer to this solution. So the inventory app is part of our asset management feature. So it's the mobile part of our asset management feature. Within the inventory app, you can issue, return, adjust, and audit assets on the fly. With the issuance feature, it allows you to track all your equipment that's been issued out during an event or for day-to-day use. Whether it's consumables or fixed assets, you'll always have the visibility to see who has what. With the return feature, fixed assets can be returned by scanning the equipment barcode. So you can return it through the barcode. There is a function in there that allows you to manually return items as well, but the easiest way is going to be scanning. When assets are returned, the status of that asset is updated and reflected in Salamander Live immediately. So there's an option in there. You'll see on this very first one here that there's an option for you to go in and change the status of those fixed assets to missing or out of service or available, which means it puts it back into your inventory to be available to be issued out again. And then our third and last feature is the adjust item feature. So this feature allows you to adjust the quantity, or you can adjust the status and make comments for your different types of assets, whether that's going to be fixed assets or consumables. Okay, so each scan basically is going to record a physical scan action regardless of any changes were made. And then those are going to be available. So those changes or those scans are going to be available through a report within Salamander Live. So that's the last part of this is we're going to also look at where you can find all the data. So everything that you do within the inventory app is tracked. All that activity is tracked and it's available all through Salamander Live. All right, so let me just pull up my inventory app here and you guys can follow along. If you have your inventory app and you want to follow along, please follow along. It works best with barcodes. So if you have equipment barcodes, have those available so you can scan and walk through the features with me. So here's the inventory app. So the inventory app can be downloaded through your app store. It does require you to have an Android or iOS device. Okay, and it does require internet connection. So that's going to be important. And let me just give me 1 second here. Let me move this back. Trying to get back my screen here. I see that there's a comment in here. The name of the app is Inventory app. So if you go into the App Store, just search for Salamander Inventory, and you should see it, and it should be a green salamander icon. You're welcome. Okay, let me get my inventory app back up. All right, so once you have your logins are going to be shared across all your applications that you have access to. So if you have access to Salamander Live, the inventory app, the track app, the tag app, it's all the same username and password. Or it could be that you're just limited to Salamander Live and the track app, same thing, same username and password. Once you log in, it should take you to the menu, and on the menu you should see the 3 options: to issue items, to return items, and then to adjust items. Okay. If you ever need to log out, the log out button's at the top right. Regardless of whether you're using Android or iOS, the look and feel should be the same across both platforms. Okay. So we're going to first take a look at the issue item. So issue item is where you're looking at issuing inventory. So first things that you'll notice in here is the list of all your assets. So this is going to include all fixed assets, including consumables. So what this is doing is it's going up to Salamander Live and grabbing all your available inventory items and pulling them through so that you can see what you have access to for issuance. Okay. Now, for each item in this case, you're going to see next to each item name is going to be either a plus icon or a hashtag. So the plus button is associated to fixed assets. And then if you see that hashtag, that's basically for consumable items. Okay, so again, this is all live. So if you're working through the inventory app with your live data, just know that everything that you do within the inventory app is going to be decrementing your actual live data. Okay, so that's very important to note. Some other icons that you'll see on here at the very top, you're going to see a filter button. So this up here, the filter and search button allows you to do some manual searching or filtering of your list here. Okay, allows you to focus and find specific items. Bottom of the screen, you'll have the scan option to scan in equipment barcodes, and then your cart. So how the issuance side works is that you have to have at least one item in your cart as well as a person. So every issuance has to be tied to a person. So that can be done by scanning that person's barcode on their ID, or there's a manual way that you can add that person, and that's going to be done through the cart side. Okay, so we'll take a look at that process, both processes on that. So in here, for each of these items, if you're, if you're unsure what that item is, let's say you didn't have a chance to upload pictures or anything yet, just know that every single one of these items in here, you're able to tap on the name of the item. So for example, alcohol prep pad doesn't have an image in there. I can tap on that and take me into the actual record itself. So it looks like there is a picture in there. It's not uploading. So in this case, alcohol prep pad, you'll see the status in here is available because this is based off the quantity on hand. You'll see the quantity on hand right there. So again, it's pulling up the inventory information for this. So whatever you filled in online, you'll have that base information that you can view in here. If you need it upload or take a new picture, you can simply tap on the picture icon and then you can take a new photo or you can choose one from gallery. So if you're taking a photo, just know that that is uploaded immediately up to Salamander Live. Okay. So for example, if I take a picture, I'll take a picture of my sore throat and cough medicine here. It's summer and I'm dealing with a sore throat. Okay. So I can take a picture. I can use this photo and this is what's going to be uploaded immediately. So if I went into Salamander Live, I looked up this record, I would be able to see this picture associated to that record. Okay. You can do that same thing on and there it is. You can do that same thing for your fixed assets as well. So let's look at let's look at this AFD engine one. Okay, so again, you'll see some base information in there on this fixed asset. So whatever information I've captured in the profile, again, it's not going to be all information, it's going to be select information. And you'll see the location and contact information, some pending alerts. And then the status, of course, is going to be available. Again, anything that's out of service or missing is not going to be listed here. Okay, so how do we get started? Simply, you have two options. There's a scan function, and then there is a manual add function. Oh, I see there's a question. Okay, so I'm a Salmon Live user, but when I try to log into the inventory app, it says I'm not an authorized user. So, Ron, yes, even though you're a Salamander Live user, you do have to also have the permissions to access the inventory app. So, if you are the administrator, log in to Salamander Live and you should be able to assign yourself the inventory app. Remember, asset management does require a subscription. So, if your account is not subscribed to the asset management feature, you would not have access. Okay, so I'm going to show this right here. I'm going to pull up Salamander Live for you. Sorry, everybody, will take a quick detour here just so that everybody knows where to find the access point. Okay, so I'm going to log into Salamander Live over here. I'm going to show you this really quick for access. So if you are following along and you cannot see this, this is all done through security users, as you can see on my screen. Go to security users, and under the security users, go into your profile. I'm going to click on one of these real quick. And if you are subscribed to the asset management feature and you have the inventory apps, it's, with the base package, you get 2 inventory apps, so you could purchase more. There it is. So even though you have access to Salamander Live, you also have to license yourself to the inventory app, making sure that you select that so that you have access. Okay. And of course, making sure that your role gets you access into the inventory app as well. So I apologize, everyone. Just want to take a quick detour right there to show you how to get access to the inventory app through Salamander Live. Okay. So as I was saying on here, that there is 2 ways for you to add and issue out inventory. So you can add items to your cart by scanning barcodes, or you can do manual. So let's look at the scan function real quick here. So our preferred way is scanning. Scanning is the most accurate. And this way you're not searching through, especially if you have multiples of the same items and they're all named like a generic name. It's easier to scan the item so you're specifically knowing that you're giving this item with this ID number to this person. Okay, so that's the first process I'm going to walk through, is the scanning. So I've got some barcodes on here I'm going to scan in. So again, you have different labels that you can print off for your equipment. You can print off the 2x1 labels, stick them right onto the piece of equipment. You can print them off on cards, like the 2x3 cards if you wanted to. Or I know that we've talked about this in previous trainings, is using the 3-up cards. So that's a 2x3 card that can be split up into 3 different smaller cards, kind of like dog tags. Those work great for vehicles or things that you really can't put a label on, like cords and such, where you can wrap around a zip tie onto it. So you got all different means of ways to label your equipment. So I've got some barcodes on here I'm going to scan in. Okay, so I'm going to tap my scan button. You'll see in here my scan button. It's going to activate the camera. Now, if this is the very first time you're using the inventory app, know that there's going to be a message that pops up that asks you whether or not the app should have access to your camera. Make sure you give it access. You allow access. If not, you're not going to be able to scan in any barcodes. Okay, so simply all you're going to do is put your camera over the barcode. Okay, and then scan the item. So you'll see in here, I scanned the item 3.5 earpiece added to cart. You see that? You can move on to the next item. Okay, and this is a case where it may happen where if you scan an item, especially when you're scanning barcodes and it says, hey, this item has been marked out of service. Do you want to change the status and add it to cart? So this is where someone may, whoever's managing the inventory may have forgotten to change the status of a piece of equipment or a vehicle. So let's say it was put out of service for maintenance, but as it was put back into service, someone didn't go into the record to mark it as available. So in this case, you can add it to cart and then you can change the status back to available. Actually, it will be assigned now, and once you return it, you can change it back to available. So I can add it to cart. Okay. So I had scanned this earlier. Let's see here, this one. Yeah, so item quantity is 0, context. So this is because this item right here someone had marked this, again, this is my training account. Someone had marked this as a consumable item, even though it's a fixed item. Okay. Okay. So you can see how you can just quickly scan in the items. So right now, all I'm scanning so far is not is non-consumable fixed assets, but I can change my, let me switch over here and I can start scanning in some actual consumable items. So if I start scanning in consumable items, this is what happens. So if I scan in this consumable barcode, it's going to say, hey, I've got 210 available. So these are ammo blanks, high red. Okay. So it says I've got 210 available. How many do I want to issue out to this person? Okay. So I can do a package. Let's say there's a package of 25. Um, and so I'm giving them a package. So in this case, it all depends on how you inventory your items as well. So this right here is individual items. Okay. And so in this case, I'm giving a packet. I got to make sure I count how many is in that package. So in this case, I'm giving that person a package which has 25 in there. So I can tap apply and they'll add that to my cart. Okay. I can start adding my other items. Right? So this is APR cartridges. How many? I've got 20. Let's say I want to issue one. So you can see how you're in continuous scan mode. Allows you to continuously scan in barcodes. Once you're done adding, you can simply tap the back button. Once you tap the back button, you'll see that all those items that you've added have been added to your cart. See that? So I've got 30 items in my cart. So again, each consumable item is added as the one because I've added those 25 counts for ammo blanks, and that's why it's counting that in as individual items. So that's scanning. So scanning again is the preferred method, it's the easiest method and most accurate. But what if you don't have any of your assets labeled? Well, don't fret because you can manually add in those items as you can see here. So you've got a couple ways to do this. So you can scroll through your list. I mean, it's pretty quick to scroll through your list in this case to find your items. So let's say you want to do a patrol rifle. Simply tap the plus button. You see that's simple as that. As you tap the plus button, it's going to add it to your cart and it's going to disappear from the list. Okay, I'll do that again so you can see that. I'll do the P25 radio ending in 040. Tap the plus button, removes it from the list, adds it to the cart. Okay. So that's how you can manually add in items. Now, if you don't want to scroll through your list, let's say you've got thousands of equipment in here, last thing you want to do is scroll through your entire list, right? So this is where these icons come in. So you got the filter and you got the search function. So let's take a look at the search function. So searching, simply tap the search function, pulls up the search bar, simply tap in what you're looking for. So in this case, if I type in truck, I type in go, anything that has truck in the name is going to pop up. So when you're searching this case, you can only search by the item name. Okay. So I can scroll through my list on here and I can tap on the item that I'm looking at adding. So let's say it's this truck 01. I tap the plus button, adds it to my cart. If I want to clear my search and do another search, I can tap the X and I can do another search. Okay. So allows you to do another search. If you want to get out of your search, simply tap the X button again and it takes you back to your issue screen. Okay. So another question is popping up from Rita. Where do I go again on Salamander to where I can access the app? I'm getting the same message. So again, that's in Salamander Live here, Rita. So you have to go into your security user. So again, this is if you are an administrator, you do have to be an administrator to get access to the security user section. So under the security user section, simply assign yourself the inventory app. See that? And making sure that you have a role that gives you access to that. So administrator, so any of these administrator roles would give you access. We also have a specific role for just inventory app users right here, called inventory app user. All right, so we looked at the search function. Let's take a look at the filter function. So with the filter function, simply tap on the filter, and then you can filter by three areas. You can filter by category, organization, or parent. So category is going to be depending upon the categories that you set up in Salamander Live. So as you know, if I go into Salamander Live here, I go in equipment, there is an area where you can set up categories and you can set up parent-child relationships. So I'm going to just pull this over to Salamander Live real quick to see where this data is pulling from. Okay. So in this case, I've got a filter set up on here. I'm just going to go into a record. Okay. I'm going to go into these radios. So I'm going to click on this radio. And in here, you should see, if I click on the edit pencil icon, you'll see that there is, under the profile, two areas. Okay. So you'll see in here categories. So you have to set up these categories for all your equipment. So as you are importing and manually adding in your equipment, if you categorize everything, that allows you to filter your list by these categories that you create. Okay, so if I filter by radios, you see that? If I type in radio, it's gonna, there's two in here, so it looks like someone created radios and radio. Again, this is my training database. So you can click up, tap radios, I can filter, and I can tap apply to filter by all radios. So everything that's been categorized as radio would pop up in here. And there's all my radios. You'll notice at the top with the filter icon, there's an X there. So that's a visual indicator that you've got a filter set. Okay, so that's what that means. If you want to add the item, you can simply tap the plus button and it'll add it to your cart. So that's how the filtering works. It just filters your list so that you can really zone in on the equipment that you're looking for and allows you to manually add those items. Okay. So I can clear this. I can do by parent. So parent is going to be based off the parent-child relationship you have set up. So like, for example, right here, this is the parent field. So when you're setting up your equipment, let's say, for example, you've got a truck, and on that truck you have all these different pieces of equipment that belongs on that truck. So this is how you can set up that parent-child relationship. So if this was the truck, you can add in, you can make this part of that truck. So if I type in truck, let me see what I have in here for trucker one. You see in here, I can link this radio, this P25 radio, to a specific truck if I wanted to. Okay, so I can put it for truck oh 01 if I wanted to. Okay, and I can save that. And now that radio is a part of truck oh 01. So if I would to go into my inventory app, okay, if I go to my inventory app and type in truck oh 01, you'll see truck oh 01 there. If I tap on that and I tap apply, it's going to pull up this radio. You see that? So if I have a bunch of items on that truck and they're all linked, they would pull up all those items. So I can issue out the truck and all those items that are on that truck if I wanted to. Again, it's dependent on how you want to track your equipment. You may just want to issue out the truck and know that on that truck you have all these equipment on that truck. And you after once the event's done, or after, you know, if they were just using it for a non-event but just for their daily operations, and you want to check that truck back in, you can do a quick audit using that adjust function to scan and make sure that you have all the items on there. So a couple different ways in which you can do that. Okay. To clear out the filter, simply tap clear to clear that out, and then you can apply. Okay. For organization, as you know, if you have access to multiple organizational equipment databases, this allows you to filter by those organizations. That's really it, or by that specific organization, I should say. So you can filter by one organization. Now you can do all three. So you can do by a specific organization, a category that's been created for that organization, and parent-child relationships within that organization. You can do all three if you wanted to. Okay. So I'm going to tap apply to clear my list, and I'll get my list back. Okay. Now I've got my list back. So that's how you can manually add items. If you forget how to do any of this stuff, you can simply tap the question mark right there and it'll have some steps on what you can do to manually add the items or to scan. Okay. So I've got my items in here. Let's say I'm done. I'm looking at scanning someone to issue this out to. So if I have barcodes for an individual, let's say the person's in front of me and they've got their ID card, I can simply scan their barcode. Right, so let me just pull up their barcode. Someone right here. Okay, so I'm going to tap the scan button one more time, get my camera active, and then I'm going to scan that person's barcode. So it looks, you'll see here, Ken Styles added to the cart. So there he is, Ken Styles. So that's how you can scan someone. So if you scan someone again, it's going to replace that person. So for example, if I scan the next person, it's going to replace Ken Styles with that other person I scan in. So question, why isn't it accepting my organization when adding an item? Can you clarify, Kimberly? Um, are you looking at the filter side?
No, I'm on the equipment side and I thought I'd throw something in there. And so it assigns the ID. I put the name of the item in there and it's in red with an asterisk. It says I have to put an organization in and it doesn't like anything I put in.
Yes. So the organization, so as you start typing, so you'll see here if I type in MOO, M-O-O, it's going to find all the organizations that match that. Okay, that matches that. I have to select one from the drop down. So same thing with you, make sure you select it from the drop down. Because what it's
Okay,
doing is,
yeah. All
yes,
right, that worked then. So thank
okay,
you.
you're welcome. Because remember, the organization field here pulls from your organization database, so that organization has to exist. Simply click it on there and you'll be able to save that record.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so we got Ken Styles in here. If there's a picture associated, the picture will be there. I've got an older barcode that had a picture. It doesn't no longer have a picture in there. Okay. All right, so the other way to do this is through the cart side. So now that we've walked through all the features, the issue side of the inventory app, let's take a look at the cart. So simply to get to the cart, tap the cart icon. So where that quantity is. Once you tap on the cart, it's gonna take you to the issue cart summary screen. Okay. So think of this as like online shopping, right? So before you finish that transaction of buying all your items, you verify all the items first. So that's exactly what you're doing right here is you're verifying that these are all the items you're looking at issuing out to this person before you complete that transaction. So you'll see there we've got Ken Styles at the very top here. Let's say that it's not Ken Styles, it's someone else. In this case, I can tap on the the person's name. If you didn't have barcodes for people, it would be add person instead of saying that person's name. And you can scroll through your list or you can search for someone specifically and have that person be added to the cart instead. So again, there's always a manual option if you don't have barcodes available. It's just a couple extra steps. Underneath the add a person is selecting an event. So I earlier talked about how you can connect your issuances to an event, so you can basically manage and track all of the assets that were consumed during that event, and this is how you can do so. So in here, all you have to do is simply select an event. So you tap on that, it's going to pull down all of your active events. So the only thing with this that you have to keep in mind is to make sure that that event is running. Okay, so that you are able to select it from the drop down, okay, or from this option. Okay, so I've got a couple different ones in here. I'll just add it to this Hurricane Pete event that's been running for a couple days now. So this is the one I'll select. Again, if you don't have the event running, someone will need to go into the Track app or into Salamander Live, create the event so that you have an event to link that to. Okay. So I'm going to simply tap on it. So I'm going to tap on Hurricane Pete. You'll see that it's been added here. So once I do this, all the issuances, all these items will be linked to this event Hurricane Pete. So when I go into the event side in Salamander Live and look at the reports, so there's an inventory history report there, it's going to show me all the inventory that was consumed during that event, whether they're fixed or consumable. If I have other items I want to scan in, you'll see there's a scan button right there as well. I can continue to scan in items if I need to. You can go through your list down here. You've got 33 items. If you made a mistake and you have an item that you didn't want on here, you scan it on accident, how do you remove it? It's simply going in here and then swiping to the left to remove. Simple as that. Swipe to the left to remove. I'll show that again. Swipe to the left, or you can tap delete. So you can swipe it all the way to the left, or you can swipe a little bit and then tap delete. For consumable items, you are able to go in here and change the quantity. So let's say you miscounted and you're like, oh, or he says Ken says, oh, I actually need 2 of those. I don't need 1. You can tap on that quantity and you can change the quantity to whichever quantity it is. Once you're done, you've verified everything. All you do is tap issue and that transaction is done. So everything you've done right here, this issuance has now been sent up to Salamander Live. So you see how you have to have internet connection in order to use the inventory app. It cannot be worked offline because everything is connected. It keeps everything in real time for data. So when we return to cart, if I return a cart, you'll notice that I now have Hurricane Pete in here. So it's smart enough to know that if you selected an event, that the next issuance is probably going to be related to the same event. So if you're allocating equipment during the event, this, again, it just keeps everything in here. If it's not and you need to clear that out, simply tap on the event name, tap the clear button at the top right, and then it'll clear out that event. Simple as that. So now you're ready to issue out items to the next person. No, you do not have to have an event. So Kimberly, your question is the only way to check out is you must have an event. No, you do not need to have an event. It's optional. So this is just for day-to-day tracking of equipment that's going out on a day-to-day basis. It's not related to event. You don't need to select an event. So you see in here, I'm gonna scan in a person real quick here. Okay, Michael Smith added. I'm gonna scan some equipment. I have equipment on here. Scan some equipment. Oh, I don't want to do that one. Let's do this one. So if you see here, let's say, for example, I scan this. If you scan this and it says that this radio is currently assigned to someone else. You'll see in here it says return from Dexter Best and add it to cart. So this means that if you're scanning barcodes like I am in a book, you may run into this. So that's why it's easier if items are scanned or are labeled and then you're scanning them from the item itself. So this could be because maybe Dexter returned the item, but it was never marked as returned in the system. So in this case, I can add it to cart and do the change. So what it does is it returns it. It tells the system that I returned it at this time at 10:34 a.m. on this date. And if I complete the issuance, it'll say that it was issued out to this person same time. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, same thing with this one. This one was marked out of service. I could add it to cart. So you see in here, I've got an issuance. I'm not selecting an event. I can still complete the issuance. This is only if you want to track uh, uh, assets and equipment that were allocated during an event. And you want to see how much was actually used up or consumed or used during that particular event. there is a specific report that contains that information. So if you are looking at tracking that for an event, you want to make sure that you select that event. Okay. Any other questions on the issue side? All right, no questions. We're going to go onto the return side. So to get to the main menu, simply tap back. So you see the back button at the top here. Tap back again, and you'll get back to the main menu. So next we're going to take a look at is the return side. So on the return side allows you to scan items that are currently issued out to return them back into your inventory, or you can do a manual. So you got your two options in this case. Okay. So scanning, of course, again, is always the preferred method because it's accurate. You're scanning the correct item, right, with the associated ID. So in this case, if I'm scanning an item back, I simply tap the scan button and I can scan the barcode. And you'll see in here it's been added to the cart. You see that? So it's going to show you the item name added to the cart. You'll see if there's a damage option. If it's been damaged, let's say this 4x4 is out of service. Let's say something's wrong with it. It's blowing smoke right now. It needs to get looked at. So in this case, I can mark this as damaged if I needed to. I can mark it as damaged. I can take it out of service. You'll see that my camera stays active. Okay, so I can scan in the next item. So I've got more items I'm looking at returning. I can scan in those additional items. Okay. So you'll see here, if something's already returned, you'll see that it's already returned in there. Okay. So keep track of my barcodes I have scanned. Okay, they're added to cart. Okay. So with this list right here that you see, this list will only list out all fixed assets. So consumables are meant to be used up. Again, they're disposables, right? So they're meant to be used up. So this list right here will only contain all fixed assets. Now, if you have some consumable items that you are looking at returning, let's say it's a package that has been opened and you want to put it back in your inventory. Yes, you can return them. The only way to return them though is by scanning. So you do have to have the barcodes for those consumable items. So what we recommend is having a barcode or let's say barcodes in like a book. So print out those barcodes from Salamander Live of all your consumable items, organize them in a way that makes sense and put them into a 3-ring binder so you have access to that. Especially if you're on scene, you're not going to be in a warehouse where you have access to that information. So it's easier if you have a book that has those consumable items, you can scan them in, similar to what I have here. So I'm going to do is I'm going to scan in my ammo blanks. There it is. Here's my three-ring binder of books. Scan it in. It's going to tell me how many of these quantities do I want to return. Okay. So let's say it's returning 10. I can tap apply. Okay. So it adds it to my cart. Simple as that. So that's scanning. Again, scanning is the most accurate. But let's say you don't have your equipment labeled. Not a problem. You can still return items through manual through the manual option. How do you do that? As you can see here, everybody's names listed in alphabetic order, as well as all the fixed items that's been issued out to them. So you see here, Brian Armstrong, let's say he's ready to return the item. So the AR-15 patrol rifle, I simply tap on that item. So I just tap on it and it adds it to my cart. Okay, easy as that. Let's say Dexter Best is looking at returning all items. Let's say he has these 2 items. He's looking at returning both. Do I need to tap every single one of them? I do not. If he's ready to return every single one of those and I verify that, yes, that's the Apex radio ending in 285 and this backpack care kit, I'm looking at returning both of those items, I can tap his name. If I tap his name, it returns everything under his name. and it adds it to my return cart. So same thing like on the issue side, you have to add items to your cart. You verify all the items first, and then you can complete that transaction. Okay. So same thing again. Let's say Prince Barnes is ready to return the camera, the thermal imaging camera, but he's keeping the battery pack as of now. I can just select the one item. So now I've got 16 items in my cart. So for me to go into my cart, simply tap on the items. So anywhere in that gray area at the bottom, I know it looks a little bit different than on the issue side. We are doing some updates to this. That's not going to come out for a few months down the road, but we are looking at making it a little bit more user-friendly on the return side, very similar to the issue side. So right here, you'll see your return cart. So you've got 16 items. You've got one item that's been marked out of service. That was when I scanned it and I tapped damaged to mark the item as damaged. Okay. On the return side, when it says return, it means that it's being put back into your inventory to make it available to be reissued out. That's what return means. So if something needs to be marked as damaged or missing, simply tap on the three, excuse me, the three dots. So it's the three stacked dots, that's the more option. Simply tap on that and you're going to see this menu option that pops up. You can mark it as missing, out of service, or return. Okay. So let's say I'm going to mark it as out of service. Let's say it's for some reason it's broken, it's staticky. So it's either going to get fixed or it's going to either get disposed of. Okay. Now there isn't a way for you to make notes in here. I'll show you on the adjust items side where you are able to make notes, but you aren't able to make notes right here. That's a question I get all the time when I do training on this is how do I make notes on why I'm marking something as out of service or etc. Not on this screen, but on the adjust item screen, I'll show you where you can do that. You'll see the scan buttons up here, so you can continue to return items through the scan. It doesn't need to be from that, or I'm sorry, it doesn't need specifically, like for example, if you're doing a whole transaction, let's say you've got a line of people, you can do it return by person, or you can do a full return before you, or let's say you scan 10 people before you tap the return button. Okay. It knows that these items right here are being returned by those individuals. Okay. So you can kind of pick and choose how you want to do that. Okay. You want to change the quantity, you can always tap on the quantity, change the quantity before you return. Once you're done and you verified everything, you can tap return. If you made a mistake, just like before on the issue side, if you made a mistake and this person's not ready to return something, simply swipe to remove it from your return cart. Okay. I'm going to tap return. The items are going to be placed back in that status that I've selected. Rita, you have a question.
Well, I was typing it out, but I'm not a fast typer. So,
That's okay.
anyways, between the fixed items and the consumable items, like is the fixed items like radios, like items like that, and consumable items is like hand sanitizer, hand wipes, stuff like that?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And that's the most case what people are setting it up as, but I have seen other agencies that have set up like fire extinguishers as consumable items because let's say they're getting cash of those in and they're assigning it or giving it to those different departments and they're just taking it out of their inventory saying that we don't want it back. It's yours now. You can now track it in your inventory as how you want it to. So I've seen that happen as well. So it's really up to how your organization wants to inventory all of your equipment.
Okay, so consumable will be like stuff that will not come back to me, and then
Yes,
fixed items will be stuff that
you want to
will
track
need
it.
that I need to be back. Okay. Okay.
Correct, that you want to track and you want to come back to you. So you want to track who has it, when it was returned, and the status and everything. So that's the difference between the two. Consumables,
Okay.
you don't care about it coming back. It's meant to be used up.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Any other questions on the return side? Oh, I have another question on here. If someone checked out 10 items but only returned 3, can you return just the 3? You're talking about consumable items, Rosa? I'm assuming that that is the case. Yes. Oh, or equipment. Yes, there is. So for example, right here, let me see. So Ken Styles, you see he's got 4 items issued out to him. So let's say he is just looking at returning the radio. I can just tap to return the radio. He still has the other 3 equipment on him. So it's still saying that these items are still issued out to him, but the radio was returned back. Okay. So now I can return it, and it's going to show me when I go into my reports that Ken returned this P25 radio, but he still has 3 items issued out to him. Okay. You can do that same thing with consumable items. Now, consumables on this case is not tracking the person who has it. So it's just saying that 10, let's say 25 ammo blanks high red were issued out to this person. Okay, so they were issued out to this person. When it was returning back, it's just telling you that maybe 10 is coming back. Like before I return 10, 10 is coming back. It doesn't know that it's coming from Ken. It just knows that 10 is coming back into your inventory. So that's a difference on the consumable side. And that's where we're making some changes in the inventory so that you can track consumables and who it's returning from. Okay. So in this case, this is another question I get a lot when it comes to returning is that can anybody return the items? Yes. The inventory app doesn't really care who is returning the item as long as it's being returned into the system. Okay. What I mean by that, let's say Ken. Ken is not in front of you. Let's say it's John. John is in front of you instead. John said, "Oh, Ken gave me his radio, wanted me to turn it in since I'm done with my shift. I'm done for the day. I'm returning all my equipment in, and he asked me to return this because he's still on duty. But he's saying that this radio, for some reason, it's staticky, it's damaged, it's broken. So it in the system you can return it. So you can say can radio. Okay, if there's a barcode, you can scan it. You can return that back into the system. So it's going to say that Ken returned it, even though it wasn't Ken that returned it. It just knows that it came back from Ken because it was originally issued out to Ken. Okay, so the system doesn't care who actually returns it. It just cares about it being returned back into the system. Is there a way for the person who owns the equipment to verify that the item has actually been returned? How do we know if the item has actually been returned? Yes. Yes, Ron, there is a report. So there's reports within Salamander Live that you can go in and track to see what the equipment being returned into the system. That's the last part we're going to walk through is the reports. I'll show you all of that. So if you want to just hold on a little bit for your question there, once we get to reports, you'll see all that data. Any other questions on the return side? If not, I'm going to jump into the adjust item. So last feature before we go into the reports is scan item or adjust item. So this really serves 2 purposes as I talked about earlier. So it allows you to adjust items on the fly. So if you need to change the quantities, if you need to upload a picture, if you need to change a status, you are able to do that for your fixed and consumable items. What you can also do with this is a basic audit. So every time you scan an item, it marks it as being scanned or physically counted. Okay, and there's a specific report that's going to pull that information based off of this feature alone. Okay, the only thing with this, the only caveat is that you can only scan. Okay, you can't do manual adds to this. Okay, you got to scan the item. Okay, so you have to have barcodes available. So let's take a look at a non-consumable item, a fixed item. I'm gonna look at this. Let's look at this thermal imaging cart camera. So here it is. I scan it. This is a fixed item. So there's 3 things you can do on here. You can change a status. You'll see in here, there's a little drop down caret. I can tap on that and I can change a status from available, which is currently at, to out of service or missing. So if I'm going to my warehouse, I'm doing a inventory check and I notice that this camera has a cracked screen, I can mark it out of service. And then I can make a comment, typing in a comment in here on why I'm marking it out of service. Okay, sending in for, okay. I can make my notations. Okay, so these notations are going to be available within a report. I can also take a picture if I wanted to. I can tap on that, take a picture. Let's say I notice that this thermal imaging camera doesn't have a picture uploaded. I can take a picture right there and it saves it directly to the record. Okay, so I got my options. Once I've made the changes, I can simply tap the save button. The save button is this check mark at the top right. That is the check mark. So I can tap on that. Oh, my internet connection. Try that again. There it goes. Okay, my phone lost internet connection for a second there. So you'll see on here it says item. So thermal imaging item updated with this ID number. Allows me to scan the next item. So camera always stays active. I can scan the next item. So if you're in your warehouse, you can scan, 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 scan. Or in your truck, if you're doing an audit, you can scan, 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 and it counts everything. So next is a consumable item. So I'm going to show you this, what this looks like. So this is hand sanitizer. Oh, that one's not found. Let me pull something that actually is available in the database. There, 6-volt battery. So this one already has an image. Let's say it's out of stock. So let's say it's out of stock, but I see that on my shelf, I actually have some in stock. So looks like it was out of stock. Some inventory was ordered for it, but it was never updated. So meaning the record was never updated. So I can update the record at this moment. So I can change the status. So just know that the status on here, you cannot manually change this. This is based off of the quantity on hand. So let's say I go in here and I've got a pack. So we're doing these by individual, and I've got a pack. I've got multiple packets. Let's say I've got 10 packs in here, and each pack has 4. So I've got a quantity of 40. So I can mark 40 on here, apply, and I can make my changes. Okay. So I can make my comments on here and why I changed it. And here received inventory. And then I can mark the check mark. And now that item has been updated. Okay. If I'm done managing the items, I can simply click back. If I'm just verifying items, again, I don't have to make any changes in this case. I can just quickly scan, 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 and I can be ready to go. So let me pull up some barcodes here. So I can just scan, you see here, scan the item. Okay. Check the check mark. I'm just verifying. So this is me just doing a quick audit. Tap the check mark. I'm just doing a quick physical inventory count of what I have in stock. Yep, I've scanned that. Scan the next item. So simple as that. So that is the adjust item feature. Questions? No questions? All right, so let's take a look at the reports. I know there's questions on the report side. So I'm going to pull up Salamander Live. I'm going to log in. Okay. So again, for the inventory reports, again, you have to be subscribed to asset management in order to see all these additional reports, okay? So if you're not subscribed, you're not licensed or you haven't been given the permissions, you're not going to see all these reports. So 99% of the reports are going to be available under the equipment database. To go to equipment, I've got a filter set in this case. So I'm going to clear my filter. Again, your reports on here are going to be based off your filter. So if you got a filter set, you're going to limit what you're going to see on that report. So I'm going to go to my report icon. I'm going to look on here and I'll see all of my my inventory related reports. So right here, issued fixed inventory. So I can see on here what's been issued out. Okay. So again, I can look at all. I can look at a specific person if I wanted to. Okay. So I'm going to run my report. I can see all the items that's been issued out. So if you're looking at something specific on what has been returned or not, this is one report that you can look at. So right here, it'll tell you issued date, issued by, so who scanned that in. Okay. The organization they're from, if it was related to a actual event itself, and then total cost, and then the contact information. Anything that's been marked as missing or out of service will be seen in these reports. Now, marking missing or out of service can be done through the inventory app. It can also be done through Salamander Live. So like, for example, if I go to, let me go to this Aerial Engine 2. You see the status under available when it's done loading. I can change the status from here. I can click on change status and I can change it from out of service, missing, or in service. The only thing you cannot change on here is assigned. Assigned can only be done through the inventory app. As you remember, the inventory app is the only application that allows you to issue out equipment. But you can do the return side through Salamander Live and or through the inventory app. Okay. So again, any items have been marked as missing or out of service will be available here. If you want to take a look at these, I'll just pull up the missing one so you can see what that looks like. Okay, so you'll see here's my list. So you got your item name, the organization the item belongs to, who was it marked missing by, the date it was marked missing, and who was last issued out to. Okay, so in this case, you can see if there's a trend. Let's say someone keeps missing items, you can see a trend on here. Okay. You also see cost information as well too for those items that's been missing and funding source. Same thing with the out of service. You can see if there's a trend on someone that may be a little bit more rough with their equipment. You'll see that trend on the out of service report. Issued consumable. So again, on this side, everything is split up. So you've got your fixed inventory and then you've got your consumable that's been issued. So you have a snapshot. So this one is just more of a brief, very, very summarized type report, and you got one that's a little bit more detailed. So I like the detail report, so that's one we're going to take a look at. So this is going to be by date range. So if you want to look at today's date, so what was consumed today, or if you want to do for the entire event, you can do for the entire event. So we're just going to look at today's date. Oops, get the date right. So you can see all the items that were consumed as of today. So all the consumable items. So here's my report. I just got 2 of them in here. So ammo blanks, how many were issued out and who were they issued to. If it was part of an event, you'll see that information and cost information. Last but not least on here is the physical count history report. So this is the one that's related to the scan or adjust item feature, this one right here. So counted, if you mark counted, that means that they were scanned in through this feature right here. Okay, not counted means they weren't scanned. Okay, and this also uses a date range. So we're going to look at today's date, what was scanned in today. Oops. I can run my report and it should show all the items that I scanned in. This over. And there's my items I scanned. So here it is, add quantity. So remember I added quantity, I received inventory for those 6-volt batteries. It's going to show me that I adjusted it over here. All right, it's all the way at the end. There, adjusted to 20. Okay. Fiscal basically means I just scan it in. There's no changes that were made. And then this one, of course, was made out of service. And the comment right here that I typed in through the inventory or through the adjust item of the inventory app is right here. So this is the only report that you'll be able to pull in to see those notes that were entered in for items that you adjusted through that adjust item feature. Okay. While we're here, though, I wanted to show you other inventory related reports. So in here, you'll see if I select a piece of item, so let's say a piece of equipment in this case, I'm going to scan in this, I'm going to just check this aerial engine 1. I'm going to click the check mark. You'll see there's additional reports. So there's 2 additional reports. One is equipment history report. So this is the entire history of this piece of equipment. If it was ever part of an event and if it was ever issued out and to whom. You'll be able to see that within this report. Okay, so there's a PDF version, Excel version for this. The other one is equipment log, change log. So this one's more related to the record itself, if it was like who made the changes. So that doesn't really relate to inventory wise, but this is the one that you want to look at. Okay. So this one, again, shows its full history of when it's ever been issued out. So you see on here, made available, out of service, it was changed out of service, it was checked into an event, and what event was that, if there was an event name. Okay, so you'll see all that in here. Another area that you're going to see issuances is on the people side. I'm going to clear my sort real quick here. And look at my people. Let me see here. I've got Prince Barnes. Mr. Prince Barnes has items issued out to him. Benjamin Herndon. Let me look up Mr. Benjamin Herndon. I'm going to show you this real quick here. I know we're running a little bit late on here. I apologize. I want to show you guys this. So assigned fixed equipment. If there's equipment assigned to him, you'll see it listed down here. But you also can see on here is that they've got a assigned fixed equipment report as well. So this one's specifically for him. So it's going to pull you the same information. The 2 items on here, you can pull that in a report right here. So this can be done within their profile, or you can go outside of their profile and click the checkbox and then click on the report and then look at assigned fixed equipment. And as items are issued out to them, you'll see on the equipment side, oops, I apologize. On the equipment side, if items are issued out, you'll see that the items will show as assigned and it'll show who it's assigned to. So I'm going to look at an item name. Let me do the ID number real quick here. $8,004. So you can see on here, if you go on item, it shows you assigned and who it's assigned to. You see that? And you can also change status. So if you're returning, if you're in Salamander Live and you're not in the inventory app, like I said earlier, you can change the status from right from here and it'll mark you as the returner. So it's going to put your username in there that you returned it. If you made it available, it's just going to show that you returned it at 11:04 a.m. on today's date. Okay. So that's how you can see that. Now, the last report is on the event side. So I'm pull the event side. This last report we'll look at before we end today's call. So last report on here is going to be event related. So if those inventory items were issued to be used for a specific event, you can pull that up through here. So you have 2 ways you can do it. You can click on the check mark, view the report, or you can go into the event dashboard and then view the report. Same way, same report. Okay, so I'm going to select this. I'm going to click the checkbox next to Hurricane Pete. I'm going to click the report. I'm going to click on inventory history. I'm going to click on that. So inventory history is the report you want to look at. It's the only inventory history report available on the event side is this report. And you'll see all the equipment that was issued out for this event. Okay. So who's issued out by, who, when it was returned, who's returned by, its current status. So if you marked it as out of service, you'll see in here it's marked as out of service. Okay. Make, model, and then costs. So if you're looking on whether or not it was returned, you'll be able to see it right from this report. So Ron, hopefully this answered your question on verifying what has actually been returned. So you got those two different reports, the issued side as well as this one. If this one's related to a event, this is the best report to look at to see what's been issued out and what has been returned. So you'll see the return information right here. So if it wasn't returned, you'll see in here, okay, Dexter Best still has this item out. So he actually has two items out right here and it hasn't been returned. So here's one, and then here's the other that hasn't been returned. And you can look over here, you can see what that item is. Okay. All right, any questions on the reports before we end today's call? I know we're about 6 minutes over, so thank you all so much for your patience and staying on with me. We had a lot to cover, and there was a lot of questions. Rita, yes, not in this call, but let me, yeah, yeah, if you want to stay on this call, yes, I will walk you through your question there and getting you signed into the app. Right. Any other questions out there? No questions? Well, just know that everything I covered here is available through Salomon University. So I've got a whole section on the mobile applications, so mobile apps, and then, oh, I'm sorry, it's under asset management. Asset management and then inventory apps. So everything we covered is right here. I've got some past recordings if you want to review, but this recording, I will see about getting it posted as soon as possible through Salomon University. If not, if you want that earlier, let me know and I can send you the YouTube link as well. All right. I'll put my contact information up here. If you have any questions as you start working through the inventory app, please feel free to reach out. You can email me at training@salomonlive.com. You can also call me. This is our 877 number. This is our 24/7 support line. So somebody will always answer that one. All right, everyone. Thank you all so much for your time today. Really appreciate you being on today's call and asking all the questions. I really like it when everybody asks questions. All right, thank you all. Have a wonderful day. Rita, if you want to stay on, I'm going to just stop the recording here.